And welcome to In-Game Chat for Saturday, September 7th, 2013. This is Season 7, Episode 30. I'm Scott.
I'm James.
And I'm RJ.
And welcome to the show. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our phone number is 334-272-9228. You can find us on Twitter at In-Game Chat, as well as over on Facebook. You can email us, everyone, at ingamechat.net. We're streaming the cam feed right now through Twitch, so you can go over there and watch the show. You can find us there, as well as join in the chat room live while we broadcast. Tonight's episode is all about video game music, and what you just heard there was the main theme from Metroid on the NES. We'll be playing some music from the NES era, the 16-bit SNES and Sega era, and so on and so forth, right up through the games of today. We're also going to be talking with some composers throughout the show. We'll talk with Tommy Tallarico, a video game composer since he was like 2, and currently the man behind the phenomenal Video Games Live. Definitely check out that show if you ever get a chance. It's great. They're currently running a Kickstarter right now to make a complete album of studio recordings, and they've got only about 5 days left to reach their goal. Also later in the show, we are going to talk to Tom Salta coming up soon. He composed music for Ghost Recon, Red Steel, and most recently, Halo Spartan Assault. And we'll also be speaking with Stephen Barton. Stephen has done work for the first Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and he is currently working on music for next year's Titanfall. I was hoping to get some Titanfall tracks for you to play, but he emailed me about those and said that first, under his NDA, he cannot release them until Respawn is ready to do that. Secondly, they have not been recorded. He has like an outline of them, and we'll talk to him about this. But he hasn't got them orchestrated yet. He hasn't.
Your presentation of those facts is kind of fun. First off, I can't give them to you because I'm under NDA.
And
Second off, I haven't made them yet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's got some versions, but they wouldn't be final, and they're not ready to do that yet. But we'll be talking with him later on in the show. We'll start with music from our first guest tonight, Tommy Tallarico, who joins us on the phone here in just a few minutes. This track is from the 2005 release of Advent Rising. It's called Muse. From Advent Rising, that was Muse. That was composed by Tommy Tallarico, and he'll be joining us on the phone very soon. Coming up now, he's the guy behind Video Games Live. RJ, I don't know that you've seen that yet, or have you?
I haven't seen that yet. No,
Okay.
I haven't.
They came here. I think they've only been here once.
It was in Birmingham.
Yeah.
That was what, about, like 4 years ago now?
A good bit,
At
yeah.
least, yeah, 4, maybe 5 years ago now.
I believe it was, and I know that you, me, and Jeremy, and Dana at the time. I think Daniel was with us,
as well,
and
yeah.
we went and saw that there. I've seen him perform at because almost every year, beginning at about 2008 or so, he would do a performance during E3 at one of the venues out there in Los Angeles during the week of E3. He would do a performance. I've been to one of those, and a lot of our people in the chat room have seen this. If you have not, though, it's Video Games Live. It's video game music composed or performed with the area's local symphony, and done live. And it's just an amazing concert if you're a fan of video games and video game music as well. Let's go to another track of his. This is actually from Video Games Live, and he will introduce it for you. So we'll just let him do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please put your hands together for the one, the only Castlevania!
music from Video Games Live. That's the kind of experience that you can expect from their live performances and lots of other stuff. It was in a small venue when it was here in Birmingham, but when they have their larger venues and stuff, they go all out with that sort of thing. So.
Well, and by small we mean I think it was something like, I don't remember the venue exactly, but somewhere between like 700 and 1,000 seats.
Yeah.
So not stadium style, not arena style or anything. More theater orchestral.
Definitely.
Type of seating.
And what they're trying to do right now is they've released 2 albums. This is Video Games Live 3 is what they're trying to do on Kickstarter. If you go to Kickstarter and just do a search for Video Games Live, you will see their progress. Now, he is offering on the backer rewards what he calls, and what it says there on the site, it's quadruple your value. So if you submit $5, you would get $15 worth of stuff when you submit that. I believe the tier starts at $1. You're supporting them, but then $5 is when the backer stuff starts kicking in. I put in $50 because that gives me just an immense amount of physical copies of things of the album, and it's all in studio recordings. The album would not be a live recording of one of their shows. It would all be in studio recordings, and they're getting licenses from Capcom. They've got he just announced that they got the rights for music from Journey. That was on the PS3, and by that he means a complete new arrangement of
Right, I was going to say,
yeah.
It's in studio as opposed to live, but it's still the same unique arrangements that you would get at the show.
Yeah, it is. It's
which is a lot of what going to the show is about, instead of simply listening to the tracks, but hearing a good arrangement and hearing kind of a crafted, curated compilation of stuff.
Yeah, and they've almost reached their goal. They've got about 5 days left, but they have not hit the goal of the amount that they need. So
They're looking for 250,000.
yeah, where are they?
They're at 180,000 right now.
Okay, and they've got 5 days left, or they still got? Okay.
They've got 5 days to go.
All right.
179,238.
So he was at PAX. I got to meet him at PAX. In fact, Colony of Gamers did an interview with him there, and I overheard a lot. He doesn't make any money off of this, is what he says. It all goes right back into the show for renting the venues, insurance on the venues. Then he has to pay the performers that do it.
Lots of travel costs.
Licensing fees, travel cost, exactly. There's a ton involved with putting these shows on, and there's a ton involved in making this album. And with the proceeds from this album, it'll also fund future performances and future projects that they'd be doing. So it's a lot of fun. If it ever comes into your area, you should definitely check it out and go and just enjoy it. It's amazing. He was talking about how not only for the venue does it bring in a brand new audience of people, but for the performers themselves, for the guys who are the symphony performers themselves, they don't get things like this. They have to go and it's all, it's the same old classical pieces, here and there and that sort of thing. So when they get to do stuff like this, it's a real thrill for them to be able to kind of relax and just, have fun while they're out there and enjoy themselves. They bring on special guests, all kinds of surprises for the stuff. So definitely check it out and support them if you can. Welcome to the show tonight. It's all about video game music. Why are we doing this? We had a thought. I think you and I driving in once, and it was just one of those things like, hey, we play bumper cuts in between going out to commercial breaks and stuff like that, and a lot of people love that part of the show.
There's always a part of the show where one of us forgets to mention exactly what the track is, what any bumper piece may happen to be, and we always play a little bit of a guessing game. The chat room makes their guesses, we in the studio guess. It's always Mega Man, by the way. Mm-hmm. And we like to talk about it. And more often than not, I would say probably 9 times out of 10, unless it's some kind of joke piece or a piece that's somehow related to the content that we're already talking about, the news that we're already covering. It's amazing how rich the history of video game music is. When you think about the history of your own relationship to video games, barring the very, very, very ancient video games that didn't have much other than a handful of basic sound effects, barely qualified as sound effects.
Right.
Music was there, filling the void. The underscore was there ages before the voice acting was there. MIDI was there ages before, the orchestral CD audio soundtracks.
Very true, yeah.
The entire the picture of the video game history and of our history with them is as much the history of game music as it is the games themselves. It's they're paired together by necessity, and there's a lot of nostalgia, there's a lot of remembrance, there's a lot of appreciation for the music of these games, and there is an enormous amount of music out there. And so every time we've talked about it, every time the subject has come up, we have a tendency to get away from whatever it is we're normally talking about, and we're just led down the path of a conversation about that particular game or that particular music or that style, whether it's RPG style music, JRPG style music, whether it's the composer in particular, whether it's a particular era of video game music. It is very easy to build hours of conversation just based off of bumper music.
It's a trigger mechanism.
Yes, it is. And we realized that with as much of it as there is, it would be very easy to build entire shows around this idea. And there are times, as you've probably heard, when we're not in studio live for any particular thing, and there are times when we can't necessarily handle our normal conversational topics, and we liked the idea of being able to have something that was merely about the music, where a lot of the conversation could get out of the way or focus solely on the music. And so we decided we would give that a shot, and it's something we'd like to do occasionally, a few times a year at the very least. So this is our first attempt at it. This is what we're looking at doing, and some of the music is sourced from individuals that are in the news right now, or that have certain endeavors, like Tommy and his Kickstarter for Video Games Live, or for people whose compositions are forthcoming, I guess, with games like Titanfall.
Yeah, with Steven, yeah, we've got him coming up.
And we're also looking to source suggestions from people who listen to the show.
Yeah, we got no shortage of suggestions and samples and things sent to us because we asked for that. I mean, it is a radio station, but unfortunately, this is the type of music that you can't call up and say, "I'd like to request you play this," because we've really got to have that on hand because you guys can come up with some obscure stuff every now and again. So, really appreciate you sending in everything. In fact, most of what you will hear tonight was submitted by you guys, the listeners. We'd asked a few weeks back for submissions for this show, and you didn't let us down. That said, let's get to our first user-submitted song. This track comes in from Ger Snort, who I believe is in the chat room with us right now. Yes, he is. This is actually a medley of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. It does come from Video Games Live. Chrono Cross released on the PlayStation in November of '99 in Japan and August of 2000 here in the States. Now, Gersnort's trigger memory for this is specifically the Chrono Cross track, which you'll hear a little bit later on in this next piece coming up. It kind of goes right into it. But he says the game itself is divisive. I personally was enthralled by the narrative and ended up enjoying the battle system. But the one thing everyone can agree on about the game is the amazing soundtrack. Scars of Time, which is the piece you'll hear, was the track that played upon putting the disc in the system. It's an amazing composition that conveys solitude, conviction, adventure, and grandeur better than almost any piece of music I have ever heard in a game, and most films for that matter. Sure, most would point to some 8-bit track from the NES days, or some beautifully archaic Commodore 64 piece of music, Hoggy, but no single piece of music has ever conveyed what a game is as effectively as Scars of Time by, I'm going to do my best on this.
Do your best.
Yasunori Mitsuda.
Yes, that's very good.
And with Journey getting a Grammy nod last year, it makes you wonder if this game would receive the same accolades. This is Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross from Video Games Live.
This is the music to Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross.
Music from Video Games Live, Chrono Trigger, and Chrono Cross that was sent in from, or requested by Snort. He had another track that he sent in to us as well. It's from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a game released on the NES in 1989. For this one, he says, when the game starts up, that memorable build-up of the music that culminates into what can be best described as Queen's Stone Cold Crazy mixed with prog rock acts like Rush, it gives the illusion that you're in for a treat of a game. And what an illusion it was.
The only soundtrack I remember from that game is my own screaming.
Oh, yeah. This was the era of not badly designed games, but hard games. Due to my total infatuation with the Ninja Turtles, I played this game for years, totally overlooking the fact that, yes, it was a turd of a game with an amazing soundtrack. The game is filled to the brim with amazing music, but this track is synonymous with gaming. Whereas Scars of Time is a success of composition and conveyance, the main theme from TMNT is a success in salesmanship. And it's one that I listen to no matter how many times it may repeat in any given music player it happens to be playing on. Here is the track. And that was the theme. Well, it was the main title sequence from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, sent in to us by Snort. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. We're going to go on to our next track here from our next interview that we're going to have with Tom Salta here. He worked on Halo Spartan Assault as well as Ghost Recon and Red Steel. This is from Halo Spartan Assault. It is called Wolverine's Return. Boy, at them drums. Welcome back to In-Game Chat. That was Tom Salta with Halo Spartan Assault, and the track was called Wolverine's Return. And we are joined on the phone right now by Tom himself. Tom!
Hello.
Hello, how you doing, man?
Doing great. How are you guys?
I'm doing pretty good, and we're doing pretty good in the show. I'm enjoying this music thing. This is kind of nice. It's nice to play these things and trigger. Again, we talked about this earlier. I don't know if you were listening in the show when we brought it up, but trigger mechanisms is what music is for us. And we hear a particular piece, and it triggers a memory of a certain point in a game or a certain thing that happened in the game, and always comes back around and makes us remember those moments and stuff.
Absolutely. Music is definitely an emotional trigger.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling in this afternoon or this evening. Where are you calling us from, actually?
I'm calling it from Connecticut.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, an hour ahead of us then. So, good
Right.
evening to you, and thanks for calling in and joining us on the show. You are a composer for, you did Ghost Recon. Which one of those was it?
I did Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 1, 2, and I also worked on Future Soldier.
All right, and you also did Red Steel for, I believe that's the Nintendo
That's right. I did the
Wii
Red
as well.
Steel series 1 and 2. I did the Hawk series. I did Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands, and I've worked a lot on some of the Just Dance games. I've worked on it's a really unique title, From Dust. I'm just trying to think of all these things. I'm not good at recalling lists of games, but
You have that many in your repertoire, as it were, to be like, I think I may have done that track. I don't know. I've done so many, which
I've
is
been all
awesome to
over
say.
in all kinds of games. I'm just a huge video game lover.
When did you get started doing it?
I got started in games right back in around 2001, 2002.
And what do you remember? What your first?
Yeah, well, this was interesting. Prior to me getting in games, I was working in the music business for 15 years. So I was, just producing artists and remixes and songwriting and all that kind of stuff. And 2001 is when I got the epiphany to get involved in game music, and it all really came down to when I was playing the original Halo, Combat Evolved on the original Xbox, and that game kind of just blew my mind, and that's when I became completely inspired. I said, you know what, this is it. Oh my God, I've been a gamer my whole life, but it wasn't until really I started playing Halo that I got the idea. I said, this would be perfect. I need to be doing this. It combines my two loves, music and games. And so that's when I got the itch to get involved. And the first thing that I did, because I really had to start over again, just because I worked in records and I just came off working on the Cher album, that wasn't really going to get me any games. So I came up with this crazy idea that I would present myself as an artist, rather than just some kind of wannabe, new composer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to make an album of electronica, and I called myself Atlas Plug. So that was my debut album, and I released this album, and it became very successful. And I signed with a publisher who really was fantastic about getting it placed and licensed. And it was accepted by the video game community a lot. So Microsoft came by, and the first game that ever wanted to license my music was Rally Sport Challenge 2. And 4 of my songs off the album got licensed into that game. Even before I actually finished all of the music, they came by and showed interest. And then after that, it led to many other licenses. One of my favorite games that licensed a whole bunch of tunes was Crackdown.
Oh, nice.
And in fact, a little Easter egg in there, which surprised me immensely, was when you're running around the city, and there's a place in the city where the makers of the game actually made a billboard, a huge building-side billboard of my album cover. So I'm playing the game, and I look up, and I see my album cover. It says Atlas Plug in fine stores everywhere. I'm like, what? Like, no one ever asked, but I was just blown away. It was incredible.
Yeah, you really weren't going to object and say, hey, I got copyright claim.
Yeah. How dare you put a whole billboard in a virtual city of my album cover? So, anyway, that's really my start. And then I slowly started getting opportunities to score. I think one of the first ones was a PC adventure game called Still Life.
Oh, I have that.
Yeah. So that was, I think, probably my first official original, score. I back in the day, then I did a game called Cold Fear,
I remember the
kind of like a
title. I don't remember the game, but I do remember the
Resident
title.
Evil, like on a ship,
Yeah.
you know, kind of thing. And but yeah, it was really interesting, and eventually I got bigger and bigger opportunities, and the Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter thing was a wonderful opportunity, and that really helped launch my career in gaming.
Well, you would. Interesting note is that we started our show in February of '07. In fact, we did our first giveaway was Crackdown, and we talked about Crackdown so much on the show back when it first released, and we gave away a copy of it like almost every week. We did a show just because we were such big fans of it and had a lot of fun with it. And in fact, we stopped doing radio, and then when we got back into doing radio again as like a homage to it. We use the main menu music.
Yes, I recognized that. I tuned in a little earlier, and I heard. I'm like, wait a second, that's Crackdown.
Yeah, we use Crackdown for our opening theme just to kind of just harken back to those days. So, which I think is DJ Crush, I think, who did that particular piece of music, and I'll have to look that up. I've got it written down here. But anyway, on to so okay, you did those, and you liked Halo and that sort of thing, and then. You get a call maybe from your agent or maybe I don't know, but how it works. But you get a call and they say, we've got a project for you. We'd like you to do the music for it. And you're okay, that's great. What are we going to do? Yeah. It's a Halo game.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to call you Mr. Big Shoes to Fill because you got Marty O'Donnell doing what is an iconic game with iconic music.
Yep.
And you got to follow that for Spartan Assault. What is your reaction to getting the call to do that?
Well, I mean, not to be cliche, but dream come true is probably the first thing that jumps into my head.
It doesn't intimidate you?
Incredibly intimidating. Okay. In fact,
good, you're human.
Whole
That's
month
great.
Before I started, I was like, having cold sweats, and I'm a huge fan, so I felt like I have to do this. This is I can't let the fans down. I did this for the fans. I mean, this wasn't just a gig for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would have done this game, I would have paid to do this game. Just the fact that it's a Halo game. It doesn't matter that it's not a huge AAA thing. The thing is, we treated it as such. We wanted that experience of playing this game, Spartan Assault. When you put on the headphones or whatever, you listen to it, and the whole experience, the sound and the music together. I mean, the audio director, music director, Paul Lipson, did an insanely amazing job of just getting the acoustic, just the whole sonic experience of this to feel like a Halo game. It feels like any, so that was really, really, really important to me. A little bit of history you might not have realized that going into this is that my first opportunity to work on a Halo game was when I was called to be part of the team to recreate the original Combat Evolved score.
Oh, wow.
When they released Halo Anniversary, that they wanted to redo the entire score from scratch, but not to come up with new music, but actually to recreate the original music note for note, sound for sound, but just to enhance it, which was unprecedented. I mean, have you ever heard of that? That's like saying, okay, we're going to redo the score to Star Wars, but we're going to re-record it.
Right.
To make it sound better. So that was, that's when the phone dropped, because I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, that was the game that actually inspired me to get involved in video game music, and now I'm given the honor to be part of a team to recreate it. I mean, some of those cues, those are the things that, to this day I still remember. So
yeah, you really want to talk about trigger mechanisms.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I mean, it was heavenly. I mean, it was hard. I mean, some of the things that I was working on, some of those cues there, because I know Marty, and after this whole thing came out, I talked to him and I said, Marty, man, you know how many times I wanted to call you and talk to you about this, but we couldn't. Everything's very secretive and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, but you got to tell me, like, this cue, this feels like it was improv, because I was trying to, like, I caught every little note, but it was like, it just seemed so random. And he's, like, laughing, like, yeah, it was, So it was, like, harder to recreate some of it than actually to have done it in the first place.
Yeah, please recreate something that randomly...
That just was like...
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, my God, every little note. But, so anyway, so that was my first foray into the Halo universe. And what was incredible, not only was it fun and, it was a great honor, but it really set me up to completely understand the DNA of what makes Halo music sound like Halo music, and that was a really important factor for me. I didn't take that lightly. I know there's talk about in Halo 4 how some people felt it didn't quite have the same DNA. It didn't feel like it was that authentic, classic Halo thing, and that was intentional. I think they did a great job with it, but we made the conscious decision to really go back to the DNA of what made that magical, we're talking back to trigger mechanisms of what made Halo sound like Halo. And I wanted to make sure that every piece of music that I created for that had the essence of the original, but without copying it. So it felt somewhat familiar, found like you found some hidden tracks perhaps or something, but it was still new. It still evolved into something new and fresh, and it also had to support this new format, a top-down shooter. Halo is a top-down shooter. That was pretty risky,
It was, and you did a great job with it. I had the album sent over so I could grab some tracks for the show tonight, and was listening to it. And I was like, yeah, that's to put it into a word, it's Halo-y. It's got those. It's
Halo-y, yeah. I think that's official word now.
It is. It's got. It does make you think of Halo when you hear it, the driving drums and stuff like that. And you've got some more subdued pieces in the soundtrack as well. Something that I'll ask you and something I'll ask our other guest scheduled for tonight is, how do you compose for a game? How do you compose music to a game? Do you, I'm guessing, does the game come first and then you look at it and say, this is how I want to write this? Or how does that process go?
Great question, and there are a range of answers to that, but so I'll just try to give you the quick summation. The full spectrum is sometimes I've gotten score to a game where they just gave me an Excel spreadsheet. Like when I did Hawks, literally I was given a spreadsheet that said, okay, 10 battle cues, 10 tension cues, 10 suspense cues, loopable, blah, blah, blah. Talk about uninspiring.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even have any graphics. And then the other end of the spectrum is where you get captures of the game already, like they're playing through the level, and they have the sound effects in it, and sometimes you get called in, you sit down, and you go to the offices of the game, and you get to meet the people, and you meet the producer, and you sit down, and you talk, and you say, well, what are you into? That's the other extreme. So Halo, Spartan Assault, fortunately fell on the latter side as far as me getting footage, so I knew what it would look like.
Mm-hmm. But then again, now you may know what it looks like, but it's up to the player to actually play the game. And so, we're continuing with the question, but how do you look at something, okay, fine, they made it, but a player has to play this. How do you know when to evoke those emotions and when to...
That's right. Well, there's two steps that really go involved. Well, probably more, but I'll simplify it as two steps. One is the creation of the music. And then the second step is the implementation, which is super, super important, which is the art of actually choosing which music to put where and when. Okay, when you trigger this point, when you get to this point, or right before the elites rush in, then we're going to start this music. So when there's really good communication, which there was in this case, between the developer and the composer, you can kind of work together. No, we don't always know all the answers. But I'm such a Halo freak to begin with, and seeing the way it was and getting a sense of the length of missions and the atmosphere, like I wanted to see what the environments look like, and I think they did a fantastic job with the graphics on, just looking at it, it's just so luscious, it's really beautiful. It feels like, to me, it looks like a Halo game, except you're just playing it from the sky, like you're sitting in a Banshee right above everything, but... So I had a sense of it, and I felt that any true Halo-y game, to feel Halo-y, has to have the music that kind of covers the whole gamut. It's got to have, of course, the tribal essence of it. It's got to have that driving force. But, one of the things I loved about what Marty did is that sometimes in the battles, there were battles where the music was not driving. It was very calming almost.
Mm-hmm.
And you're having this intense battle over this music that is the opposite. And it's one of the things I really admired about that made one of the many things that made that score stick out for me. And it's one of the formulas that I wanted to also capture when I did this. So, you just get a sense of it. You kind of just get a feel of it. And the more you do this kind of thing, and the more you're an avid, true lover of video games to begin with, I pay attention to the music. So, for me, I wanted to say, okay, what kind of music would I want to hear while playing this game? And that's what I did.
And that's how it comes about. Well, what are you currently working on? Can you tell us?
Oh, if I was in movies, I could tell you, but in games, I can't. People would be ringing my doorbell right now. But needless to say, there are some exciting things on the way. Hopefully, I can talk about them soon, but more than likely, it'll be early next year. So in the gaming world, I can't talk about much of that. I also do lots of film trailer music and things like that.
Can you tell? Fine. Well, let us know what film are you currently working on or have coming up.
Yeah, no, I was referring mainly to film trailers.
Oh.
So, when you watch the coming attractions and things like that, I put
one of my favorite parts of going to the movies. I promise you, I used to, as when I was younger, I would scour, because trailer music, first thing you have to realize is that most of the time when you watch a trailer, the music that they're using is like placeholder, not really placeholder, but it's pulled from something completely different. It's not
it has nothing to do with the movie at all.
And
right.
that is so hard to find, or at least it was years and years ago when I was looking for these great pieces of film. And I believe it's oh gosh, his name is John something. He does trailer music, and I can't remember his name, but he put out a whole album of all of his trailer music that he did, a dual disc thing of just nothing but film trailer music.
That's right.
Loved it to death.
Yeah, it's getting more and more popular, and it's something. Yeah.
Do you currently have anything in theaters right now, or at least attached to a trailer?
Right. No, you know why? Because it's been about 5 years since I actually put out a trailer music album, because I've been so busy scoring games.
Doing the games, yeah.
But I just started another one just right now, so hopefully, and that stuff goes pretty fast, so hopefully in the coming months I'll be able to, I'll have some new trailers out there right now. But I've been, just so busy scoring games, I haven't been able to pull away.
Well, we appreciate you calling in and giving us your time this evening. Thank you so much. Thanks for the work that you do, and thanks for continuing to do it. And we look forward to your tracks on some games here in the future and having you back on to talk about them. So thank you.
Awesome. Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Have a great night.
You too.
That was Tom Salta, who recorded for Ghost Recon, Red Steel, and all those other games that he mentioned. A lot of Tom Clancy titles in there as well that he recorded for. And we're going to have another piece of his music. This is also from Halo Spartan Assault. This is called Finishing the Fight. That was Halo Spartan Assault, Finishing the Fight, from Tom Salta, who we just interviewed. And thanks again, Tom, for being on the show with us. We've got Stephen Barton coming up in just a little bit, but we're going to go back to songs that you guys have submitted to us. Our next song, sent in by two people, Doogie2K and Ger Snort, both sent in this piece from Bastion. Ger says of the track, "The moment that you run across this song in Bastion is among the most memorable gaming moments I've ever had. I defy you to not just stop playing and let the song play out until it starts to loop the third time when you encounter it the first time. Truly a beautiful moment in the game." Here from 2011's Bastion is Zia's theme, Build That Wall.
Dig my hole, you build a wall. I dig my hole, you build a wall. One day that wall is gonna fall. Gonna build that city on a hill. That city on a hill. Someday those tears are gonna spill. So build that wall and build it strong, 'cause we'll be there before too long. Gonna build that wall up to the sky. Gonna build that wall up to the sky. Someday your bird is gonna fly. Gonna build that wall until it's done. Gonna build that wall until it's done. But now you've got nowhere to run. So build that wall and build it strong, 'cause we'll be there before too long.
That was music from Bastion. That was Build That Wall, Zia's theme, known in the game. And sent in by Doogie2K and Ger Snort. We're going to get to more tracks that you guys have sent in coming up later on in the episode. But right now we're going to go to a track from Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the very first one. This is composed by Stephen Barton, and he will be joining us on the phone shortly here. He did Call of Duty music, and he's also doing music for next year's Titanfall game as well. Right now, this is from Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's called A Bloody Big Jeep. episode. Got some more interviews, or got another interview coming up later on in the hour. But going back to music that you guys have sent in to us, and we do appreciate that. And in fact, Nabokov is sending us tracks right now as we speak for the next time we do this. From Doogie2K, again, he sends in another track. We're going 1 year earlier than Bastion to 2010. This track is from the Difficult as Hell V6. Yeah, V. It is called Pushing Onwards. Here it is. Now, our next couple of tracks come in from listener Naveed, who is also in the chat room with us on Twitch. And these tracks pretty much spread the generations from the NES, the PlayStation, and current gen. To begin with, we're going to go back to 1989 for a game for the NES from Sunsoft. This is Batman. Music from Batman from 1989. That was from Sunsoft. There was a Batman game prior to that, but this one was based, of course, off the hugely popular Tim Burton movie, and the game was nothing obviously like it. But you know how movie licenses were back in those days.
Right.
Really bad.
Much like they are nowadays.
For the most part, actually, you don't. Well, yeah, no, they're still the movie license games. I don't ever pay attention to them, so I forget they're there. But
Right.
yeah, there's like a Pacific Rim game, Ripped. The only one that I can remember that really did a good job. Well, it did a good job because it deviated from the film, which was Wolverine Origins.
Oh, sure. The game that was everything the film should have been.
Yes, exactly.
The M-rated game for the PG-rated film,
Exactly.
which I thought was an excellent approach. Just throw everything out that the film was and do everything that you would rather have done as a video game.
Well, going from 1989, we're going to jump all the way to 1998. It's a favorite game of most of us here in the studio. This is the main theme for Metal Gear Solid. Music from Metal Gear Solid, sent in by Navid, and also another one sent in by Navid. We're going to go to that one right now. If you jump ahead some more years, move up even further to August of 2011, it's another favorite game of the show. Composed by Michael McCann is his name. This is the main theme to Deus Ex Human Revolution. music there from Deus Ex Human Revolution. Again, a trigger mechanism for me, just for the fact of that was really good music, and James was talking about doing the comparison of the original Deus Ex to what Human Revolution
and
is.
They don't sound the same. But down in their DNA, you can see that they are similar. They are, the music artistically was kind of discussing the same themes. You know, futurism, synthetics. There are things in the music that you can see kind of draw you toward the same point, just from different eras. Things like that are really, really fascinating to me, particularly since those two tracks don't really sound anything alike.
Well, our skipping just a few months in that same year of 2011 to November. This is also sent in by Navid from composer Jeremy Soule. Here is the main title for Skyrim. That was the main theme from Skyrim, something that you can see performed live at video games live. They get the whole orchestra and the choir and everything else involved in that whole thing. amazing performance for something live. I mean, that's a powerful song in and of itself, but to hear it live is really, really fascinating. So definitely something to check out with video games live. Our next track comes to us from a friend of the show, Ghost Bear. If you know Ghost Bear even the slightest bit, you can probably guess what game we're about to play music from. This is from 1995. It's a piece from the soundtrack to MechWarrior 2. From Ghost Bear, that was MechWarrior 2. He didn't compose that, but Ghost Bear really likes the game and enjoys everything about it, and sent us that track from MechWarrior 2 from 1995. Now, these next tracks, I was really pleased to see these come in. They were submitted by a listener, Alex Bobo. He sent these tracks in from the recently released DuckTales Remastered. The verse track, and seemingly everybody's favorite from the remastered version of the music, it's for the Moon stage of DuckTales. Enjoy. That was from DuckTales Remastered. That is the Moon Stage theme, which is a big favorite of pretty much everybody who has heard that. Now, the other part of that is the main title from DuckTales Remastered. We played it long ago whenever DuckTales had been announced that it would be released. And we wanted to hear that. So we heard it, and then they sent the remastered version came out in August. And pay close attention because the original NES version of the song, it remains intact throughout the entire track. While it's surrounded by much more accompaniment, it never drops out of the song. It is completely there in all of its 8-bit glory. This is the main title from DuckTales Remastered. And welcome back to In-Game Chat. That was music from DuckTales Remastered, the main title theme for that. Now, earlier you heard a track from Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. A Bloody Big Jeep was the name of that track, sent in to us by Stephen Barton, the composer for that track, who joins us on the phone right now. Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How you doing over there?
Pretty good, yeah. Buried in writing, but yeah, we're sort of at the crunch time of this particular game I'm working on at the moment. But
I'm guessing that particular game is Titanfall. Is that what you're talking about?
It is indeed.
Yeah.
It is indeed.
I got to play that for the. I mean, we've seen things, and I finally got to play that for the first time at PAX this past weekend.
I didn't like it.
Oh my God, it was great. It worked. It really worked. Not really that I was worried about it. I was interested in it. But I really wasn't thinking about how well it would play. I just kind of thought, well, how's it going to come off with Titans, mechs, and then on foot fighting? But the guys at Respawn are doing a great job with it. Which are they're former devs of Infinity Ward, correct?
Yes, I mean that's how it originally, and I think quite a number of them worked back on the Medal of Honor franchise back when it was sort of even prior to Call of Duty. But,
yeah, Call of Duty, the game that you scored for, the original Modern Warfare, was a game that I played the multiplayer part of a ton. In fact, most of us in the room and probably in the chat room, we played a ton of that multiplayer from the first Modern Warfare. It was doing all these great things, and I tell you, when I was playing Titanfall at PAX this past weekend, I got a sense of remembering what that felt like, how everything felt new again. It flowed like water as you were playing through it, just so smooth. The parkour or the free running that you have of the of when you're on foot worked so amazingly well. And then, of course, when your Titan comes in, it gives a whole nother dynamic to the game. So
it's great. I mean, in terms of I remember very vividly the very first time I met with this particular group of people. Principally, Vince Zampella and Steve Fukuda, who's the game director, and when we first went over to I was working with Harry Gregson Williams at the time, who actually wrote the theme for the game, the original, the main theme with the coup sequence in the single player. Mm-hmm. But we went over to Infinity Ward's offices over in I think they were in Van Nuys in California, and we sort of went into there. They had a little theater where they had a system set up. We hadn't seen anything, didn't know anything about it. I played Call of Duty the previous, I played 2, and I think I played a bit of 1 as well. So I sort of still had kind of World War II in mind. And then they put up the sequence in the single player where the nuke goes off, the nuclear explosion, and we just sat in the room, as we sort of scraped our jaws off the floor, and just it was just a stunning thing to see, and such a sort of bold piece of storytelling, and that was the very first thing we saw of it. We're just like, we realized these guys were, pretty serious about what they wanted to do in terms of sort of pushing the boundaries of what you can do with a game like this, what you can do with the storytelling, what you can do with the visuals, and just to be a part of anything they're doing is always is the greatest fun.
Now, when did you get started doing? How did that all come about? You doing video game tracks and music, that sort of thing. How did that start?
Well, I came from the film side of things. So I when I came out to Los Angeles in about it was just around 2001. I worked for 6-7 years with another film composer called Harry Grayson Williams, who also did the Metal Gear, a lot of the Metal Gear franchise, and we were predominantly doing films. And that sort of hadn't been something that had necessarily been on the cards, and sort of I was working a lot in film and so. And then we were working on I think we were working on Gone Baby Gone on Ben Affleck's movie, and we're sort of wrapping that up, and got this sort of random thing. Sort of we had the same agent at the time, and they said, oh, there's a video game, and they're interested in doing something really big and cinematic, and sort of pushing the envelope a little. And so we sort of like, oh well, that's cool. Let's go and check it out. And then as soon as I found out what it was a franchise that was very dear to my heart. I mean, I played a lot of it, and I was always a first-person shooter person anyway. I mean, I sort of my first sort of games that I played were really seriously was the first Doom. So it was something that I immediately was like, we got to do this. This is great. But it just coming from the film world really, and sort of I think that part of what attracted them was kind of using some of the sort of more sort of really cutting edge stuff we were doing in film, and sort of and the possibilities of surround sound, and really working with what was available sort of orchestrally, and in terms of the studios we use, and all those kinds of things. So it was sort of basically taking that sort of the film world expertise and taking it across, and sort of seeing what we could do for this game. So it's a pretty cool experience for sure. But that was my very first video game, which is talk about being thrown in at the deep end.
Yeah, really.
That was the very first thing I did. Yeah. So.
Well, and now you're of course working on Titanfall, which is from Respawn, most of the guys who worked on that first game for you. How did that collaboration come about? Did they contact you, or did you say, "Hey guys, I'd really like to score this for you"? I mean, how did it come about?
Very flatteringly, they contacted me, which was very very kind of them, and sort of obviously when these people when they ring, you very quickly take notice, because I was very aware of what had been going on with the whole thing with Activision and the lawsuit split from and founding of this new company, and sort of kind of been aware that they were making something, but there was so little out there online. And even when I sort of before I was going to the very first meeting I was taking on it, I'd looked went online and thought, oh, maybe I'll look, and I couldn't find anything. I mean, there was nothing. Right. Not even the faintest trickle of information. So I was sort of, largely just intrigued to see, what they've been up to, and it didn't disappoint at all. It's definitely it's an amazing thing to, the little bit I played of it. It's just it's the pace is just so blisteringly fast. And,
oh, it is.
And it just gives you that sense, when you're playing this. Some first-person shooters I played, you sort of boot them up and you kind of know exactly where you are, and you run around and it's great, but you're sort of you're immediately in there. This one, it's sort of because I really felt, the first time I played it, I was like, I was kind of like learning again. I was like, okay, the sort of three-dimensionality of it, the way things, you really have to look up and down and all around you, and it's sort of this. It's fresh, it's new, and that's what they always bring to the table. Something.
I like to just when everybody asks, I like to just tell them, look, it works. It really, really works. I know that's a horrible description to give when somebody hasn't played a game, but it's just one of those things. It's one of those things where it's like, if you've got any concern, just don't worry about it. It really, I was surprised at how well. I'm not very good at these games, and somebody had asked me, how's the respawn mechanic? And I said, you know what? I didn't die that much. Which either means the game's broken because I should be dying a lot, or it fit like a glove for me. It really wasn't that difficult to get acclimated to, and just worked so well. You've got your advantages of being in a mech, and you've got your advantages of being on foot as well. And I don't necessarily want to get into too much talk about the game, because we're here to talk about the music for the game. But just know that it really does work. Now, you're talking about you hadn't seen any footage of it. How do you, and I've asked this to the other composers we've had on earlier tonight, was how do you compose for a game? Do they say, well, here's parts of the game that you can look at? Again, it's got to be player driven. So, I mean, how does that translate into? I need a cue here and a big, sweep of music come here and that sort of thing. How does it all fall into place?
It's interesting, and it's sort of it's a very evolutionary process, I think, because obviously you can only really know how well something is working or not, but when they actually put it in and sort of see how it works. And so it's a very malleable kind of process in comparison to, say, something like film, where maybe they're going to change the edit a little on you. You get a scene, and maybe the next week, an action scene, and it's 4 minutes long, and then you see it a week later, and they've skipped 30 seconds out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still basically the same scene. Whereas on the game side of things, what I've noticed is that it's very much more sort of like, well, we can try this here, we'll see how it works, and try this there and see how it works. And obviously, sort of, given that it's all in a multiplayer environment, there's definitely the way you think about sort of how you write is very different. Generally speaking, sort of on all the games I've worked on, which I really haven't worked on all that many in numerically, but generally every single one has been a little bit different. Call of Duty, definitely I remember I had quite a bit of footage, and it was sort of very rough early renders, but the timing was pretty, was sort of fairly set, whereas this one I've been sort of actually much more especially of the last few months, I've been writing trying to sort of write 1 minute, 2 minutes, sort of almost like little modules.
Mm-hmm.
But even those are sort of very malleable, and there's no sort of necessary sort of, it's not that I sort of know that in 30, 40 seconds in that something's going to happen, because you don't know that something's going to happen. So it's a different mindset for sure, and sort of trying to as much sort of kind of evoke the emotions you're looking for out of sort of tone and instrument choice as much as sort of kind of the actual structure of the music itself. Trying to give it a real identity that instantly which particular what game you're playing. It's trying to find something unique and something very particular. So it's sort of a process of just sort of trying different things out, really, and seeing what works, what people respond to, seeing how it works against the sound. Obviously, it's a game of a lot of loud sound. So
yeah.
But the beautiful thing on that side is that the game director Steve Fukuda and the audio director on the game Eric Kraber, they're both very, very, very musical. And so they're incredibly attuned, and they've actually been sort of, in terms of the integration of the music into the game, they pretty much handle almost all of that, just because it's it's very much sort of like I'll follow their leaders, say that they say like it needs to go bigger here but down here, and it's sort of it's actually, because they're so attuned to what they're doing, it's actually a very easy process. But it's just experimentation, really.
How much of the score for Titanfall right now is complete in the sense that you just need to, take it to the orchestra and get that part of it done?
That's a good question. Actually, I should probably know that. I don't. I reckon we're sort of. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. There's a lot done. There's a lot we sort of still want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think total in the end, I think it's going to be about somewhere just over 100 minutes of music, and but there's a lot of it actually, funny enough, isn't going orchestral. There's a large portion of the score is probably is essentially going to be very much more electronic driven, and that's and a lot of the pieces I have are sort of it's very much sort of not a straight up and down kind of traditional score. Trying to find especially a real sort of unique kind of sound. A lot of that is electronic, a lot of it's sort of synthetic, and going for this really sort of kind of unusual palette, something that might not have heard before. So I think it's
Well, really can't wait to hear the score itself whenever it's released. Do you have any idea of when when that is gonna come about, as far as like when they're gonna release the score, or at least
That's a very good question that I don't know the answer to. Obviously, sort of in terms of the game, it's I don't know the date yet.
Right.
But it's sort of, I would imagine at a similar sort of time we'll look into sort of seeing what we're going to do with the score in terms of sort of giving it some kind of iTunes CD release of some sort. But yeah, really they're sort of hunkered down in terms of getting the game together, and it's that sort of, we're right at that kind of beautiful crunch moment where everything kind of sort of very early morning starts, late evening finishes, and but yeah, and then sort of as it comes together, and I think as we mix the score, then we'll start figuring out exactly exactly how we're going to do that, and to what outlet. But I'm sure there will definitely be one. So
we've got you sent over the trailer music as well. Is what we're gonna play it here once we get off the phone with you here. We're gonna go into that piece. But is any of what's in there kind of a taste of what we can expect?
It is, yeah. There's definitely there's a lot of electronic elements. There's actually sort of a lot of it sort of kind of trying to sort of blur the lines between sort of the sound. I mean, you'll also hear some of the sound design elements. And then there's a lot of big ethnic percussion. We've been recording it's a sort of big battery, and sort of musically the score, sort of even more so than this piece you'll hear, but it's kind of, we're going for a sort of real melting pot of lots and lots of different elements, and sort of pulling from different sounds, just because it's something that's that being set in the future, and being sort of this sort of new world, we kind of have a beautifully free reign to sort of really pull different instrumentations and different sound worlds, things that might not necessarily go together. Sort of sticking Japanese taiko drums with sort of heavy Western dobro, electric guitars, baritone guitars. But the trailer track's very sort of has a big sort of orchestral element to it.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely will feature, and and then a big ethnic percussion element, which also will feature too. It is definitely in the ballpark for sure.
Well, Stephen, we thank you for your time. I know you got to get back to it and get back into crunch. So hope you enjoyed the break from it, but get back to work.
Oh, very much.
So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. So good luck with everything. Can't wait to hear it, and definitely can't wait to play it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm as psyched as you guys are. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Well, thanks again for calling in, and have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye-bye. That was Stephen Barton, composer of, for one thing, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the very first one, and of course he's doing the music for Titanfall. This is the Titanfall trailer. It contains the sound effects and the voiceover for it as well, but the music is right there front and center also. So here it is.
I should have been here. They're going to call us marauders, terrorists, or worse. I'm sorry. I promised you I'd never get back in one of those damn machines again. If you're looking down, I hope you understand. We left everything behind. Hell, getting here was just the beginning. You said it would be tough to start over, but I didn't listen. You said more would follow. I thought they'd leave us alone. I was wrong. But there's no turning back. This is our land. This is our land. And I will fight for it. There's any honor left on the frontier. I don't know if there ever was. I just know make them pay.
Music from the trailer for Titanfall, composed by Stephen Barton. Our last of the listener-submitted tracks, which does not mean the show's over with. We got more music to play, but our last of the listener-submitted tracks comes from another good friend of the show, longtime listener, Spigot. He hit us up on Twitter this week asking if we had any music sent in from this game, and when he found out we hadn't, well, he had to correct that. This is from 2012's Hotline Miami. This is Hotline. Music from Hotline Miami sent in to us from Spigot. Thank you for doing that. From here on out, it's favorites of the show, and most of these were submitted to us from Straximus, Jeremy, who isn't here, but he will be joining us next week. In 2001 came a game that brought to us a mechanic that still lives on in gameplay of today and will likely stay with us for a very long time to come. The mod community went nuts with it, and it became the reason I built a PC back at the time. This is the main title for Max Payne. Music from Max Payne there. Going into our next set of favorites here on the show that Jeremy sent in to us. Going back to the year 2000, this is the main theme for Crimson Skies. Music there from Crimson Skies, which some of you in the chat room recognize. James, of course, recognizes as well. Loves that track. I want to thank everybody for joining us in the chat room, as well as everybody listening on the stream or on the radio as well. Thanks to everybody who grabs us every week from iTunes or however you get our show for later use. We really appreciate it. Thanks again to our guests, Stephen Barton, Tommy Salta, Tommy Tallarico. And don't forget to check out the Kickstarter for Video Games Live and support them if you can. Also, a huge thanks to Blue Water Broadcasting for letting us do this special episode of video game music. Without them, there would never have been an in-game chat to begin with, way back when or even now. So don't forget to join us on Twitter, Facebook, our forums at colonyofgamers.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're on Steam, we've got a Steam group you can join up with over there and play games with us and other listeners. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next Saturday. Enjoy Greg Edmondson's track from Uncharted. This is Nate's theme. We appreciate it. See you next week.